And they are off to the races. There we go, guys.
And we have a new one. Welcome to Evolutionary Manifester United Frequency. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. You're going to love it. So, good to see you. I think who's under that? Miss Skydra Deanna, Dan. All right, you guys. Who do we have? Can you guys hear us? Yeah, it says we're live, so I don't know. Oh, wait.
There it is. Okay, it's gone.
Oh, okay.
We're
So I
good.
just keep going?
Yep.
All right. So Jen and the Birds, Miss Diana, good to see you guys. Jason of Oz, hi. Hello there, Dan. And just to make sure, I don't know, this stream started a little bit wonky. I just wanted to welcome United Frequency. Make sure I get that in there. Good to have you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for being a evolutionary manifester and joining the family as a member. Again, we have memberships available on YouTube, on EEARTS, Evolutionary Energy Arts, and Heart's Own. So we have the three channels that we do keep running, uh, and doing our best to keep up with each one of them. Each is a little bit unique. Again, Heart's Own is the newest, and that's a little bit more light side without delving down the dark side of things, and we tend to avoid the news over there. And then evolutionary, we're kind of slanting it a little bit more for the health side of things. But each one of those, we appreciate all you guys and your support, and it's been a blessing. Do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com, and you could check out also merchandise that is available to support the channel as well. It's just something we wanted to do because so many people had brought it up for so many years. And you could get your T-shirts, you could get your puzzles. Mugs should be coming. I think. I hope that mugs will be coming. I got check in and see what is planned, as well as you want to book a healing session because we do life coaching, we do energy work, biofield tuning. We use a combination of Qigong, medical Qigong, Reiki, pranic healing, and other techniques as well in helping people in whatever way we possibly can.
And thank you, Israel. We definitely appreciate that support. It helps us. These gatherings, when you guys do donate like that, it really helps us continue these gatherings because we really love to do it, and we like to spend the time on research and time and effort. So that really helps us a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And we want to also thank everybody for your support over at Patreon, where there are different tiers with different benefits over there as well. So we again appreciate you guys. I thought we would just take a peek at the Schumann because it's been pretty intense, and it still pretty much is. As we can see, we've been getting these whiteout conditions. Power 79, that's high. It's been high for days on end. And it seems like so many of the regular people that we talk to on a regular basis, we have a lot of regular clients that we meet with either each week, every other week, once a month, things like that. People are finding it challenging at this time. The energy is a transitionary energy. We're literally going from one reality to another at this point in time. And I think it's important to realize that.
And thank you, Dan. Dan says it's payday. Thank you for your work. Well, thank you. Thank you for the return in energy. We do appreciate that. I just want to say some more hellos here. I see we have Miss Susan Donahue in the house. K-Heads, good to see you. Miss Christine Love, dreaming in Puerto Rico. Israel, I know you probably can't see it on this side, but you have the magic dot today on you have the magic symbol today when looking at the chat. You probably don't see it on your side though. I don't know why. Like yesterday, Jen and the Birds, she had it. So I don't know why some people get that and some people don't. Very, very curious. But yeah, you guys, this is gonna be a good one. this is something that we have a little bit of a passion for when it comes to the paranormal. It is fun. It is a very interesting topic, but also a very serious topic. You can really get in trouble if you don't know quite what you're doing and you're poking around in the paranormal. Things can go out of alignment pretty fast if you pick up the wrong thing.
Yeah, for Cindy and I, both of us, we've been involved in the paranormal all of our lives. All of our lives. It's just a way of life for us. Some people are like that. Some people have different energies that perhaps sometimes entice other entities that are not always visible to interact with you. Again, has to do with an awakened light body in most cases, and also awakened pineal gland. Why do some people have no experiences? Others, they've seen UFOs, they've seen Bigfoot, they've seen many ghosts, had interactions with all sorts of different things. I think it's all about our own energy and how open we are and how developed we are in some ways. Not to say that if you don't have encounters, you're not developed, but just to say that again, entities can tell when somebody can see and engage with them. Which, again, this could be a double-edged sword because there are some entities out there which are benevolent and nice and, again, would interact with you in a nice, polite manner, so to speak. And then there's the other ones that you don't really want any interaction with. And if they see you, and latch on to you, you want to be able to get rid of them, get them moving on down the road and out of your part of town.
And that can take some effort, just depending. It takes a little bit of really, really knowing what you want. Still going on with the hellos. Ray, good to see you. The Cortez shows. Glad you guys stopped in. Good, good, good. I think we got everybody. Whoever's watching out there and has not said hi in the chat, hello. We are so grateful you could make it, but it's going to be a fun one today. And informative. I really hope it's informative because looking at the dimensions, they are collapsing. They are collapsing. It's not, they seem to be, no, they are collapsing. We are seeing so much more out there now than we ever have. And I think it's just important to kind of outline the world that we live in, and you make space for each other. I mean, it could get a little bit crowded, and if that happens, beings can get cranky. So we all need to make our boundaries and give each other space.
Yeah, and Dan always looks forward to getting back to his pack of dogs where he feels nice and safe and secure and comfortable. We could definitely understand that. John Hernandez, ever since CERN shut down, I've been having to take more naps during the day. I also wake up tired every morning now. On top of that, having dreams of water and then hearing Lumeria. Interesting. Chris Brooks says, you guys are Ghostbusters. Yeah, we absolutely have been. That's part of what we do. A lot of times what people might not understand is they have entity attachment. And in fact, if there's certain things that you do habitually, you almost guarantee you're having habitual entity attachment. And we'll go over some of those things too.
Oh, we will. We'll go over the things. If you guys have a question, ask and we'll answer it. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of go through everything and say it how we see it. But yeah, the energy has been absolutely hard. And I do think, Dan, it will get better after eclipse season. So let's keep an eye out for that. I think after the eclipses, I feel it's going to iron out a little bit, but this is a difficult season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the understandings that we've come to is that parasites are demons and demons are parasites. I think that's a pretty clear statement that really is actual.
Indeed.
But not all aliens are demons. So there's a difference there. Not all extraterrestrials are demons. Some are very angelic and I think have been mistaken for angels at different times. So again, Schumann, very, very high today. Yeah, a lot of people might feel uncomfortable at this time. And, the naps can be downloads. They absolutely can be downloads. I do think I've noticed this all my life. If I'm worried about something, concerned about something, looking for, direction and guidance, and all of a sudden I feel tired, and then the next thing that'll happen is I'll lie down or I'll just sit comfortably and let my mind relax. I'm getting pictures flowing through my head. And, that's again communication from the guides. Sometimes when you need some clarity, I'll go grab some tarot. I was meaning to do that today too, to grab more clarity. Because the tarot is another way the guides can communicate to you without interfering directly in your human experience. It's like we're in this game, and the other people that are not necessarily directly in the game can't communicate to us, be kind of cheating, what's going on in the game that we might have questions about but not quite see yet.
Right. There's just so many different things. And over the years, we have had the opportunity to work with many, many people, have many situations. And I look at every single one as a learning opportunity when it comes to working in the different realms. Mike and I both would fit the traditional description of a shaman. So everyone does. I mean, everyone does. It's just to what degree do you want to get involved in it? Do you want to work directly with other beings on other dimensions, or do you just kind of want to be a standby and kind of watch things happen, or do you want to be directly involved in helping them and giving guidance to people who maybe have lost a loved one, lost a pet? All of these things count in this world, and experience and confirmations matter. That has been the biggest blessing for me, to have a lot of confirmations in the world of supposed invisibility. it's I mean, everything is there. If it's not there, you wouldn't be able to see it in any way, shape, or form. But we've helped quite a few people, in working between the 3D and the other realms, in many different ways and all kinds of forms. So it's just been a true blessing.
Yeah, I think by this time it very well is probably in the thousands, because it's what we do. That's our main thing, our main job, and the YouTube and the videos is kind of secondary again to it. Good to see you, Robbie. It's always good when Robbie's in the house. And Susan says it's getting weird out there. Many folks seem zombified. Well, yeah, I wonder, are some of them literally possessed? And I kid you not, do they have attachments? That is very, very real. Again, if you have certain habits, you're very likely to have attachments. When I think about like some of the worst, scariest serial killers of all time, immediately I will say they all have attachments, very, very demonic attachments. And yes, somebody that's not recognized as a serial killer officially can still be truly completely controlled by demons or demonic entities.
So in my younger years, I worked, for a very, very large IT company, and I worked the night shift, and it was just my job to watch all these things. But I would get bored, so I would start reading on this website, crimelibrary.com, and I would say the number one thing that stuck out to me there was Son of Sam. And he was quite an interesting character, but I really did. I was so curious about looking into the world of serial killers and what drives them, what makes people like that. I just had this taste that I needed to know. And I guess he stuck out so much because it was his dog. His dog told him to do things, and that really did scare the pants off of me. So it's like, oh my gosh, it's but that's just kind of what can happen with this if you go down that road and you're not careful and you're wobbly and things of that nature. Any good spiritual practice should bring you more grounding, absolutely more grounding, and bring you to a state of ease and peace. And if it's not doing that, then there's something not right.
Yeah, Psycho Zeph says, "Why is that guy in the top right corner there?"
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, like we just explained, we said some people that aren't technically recognized as that historically are just that, because again, they end up ordering the death and destruction of so many people, perhaps just for profit, just for control, just for ego in some cases. But yeah, when you look at these people, absolutely, they have attachments. They certainly do. And I almost think that most humans couldn't do the things that some of these people have done without having some sort of big time attachment. I think it's almost impossible. And then when you have, again, people that do the mass shootings, I think there's a couple things going on. In many cases, again, it's attachments. It's also sometimes, if you look at what they have been scribed, there's substances that can allow dark entities to overshadow people. And then there's the whole thing with MK Ultra, which is something sort of similar, but not exactly what we're looking at here today when we talk about more like getting rid of these hitchhiking parasitic entities that you might pick up just by going to the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, there are like these structures, buildings. I've investigated with a paranormal group. I was part of a paranormal group for a couple of years and had a blast doing investigations with them. It was actually extremely interesting and fun. They were soldiers from Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And the group only disbanded because most of them were going and getting shipped to Ramstein in Germany. So we couldn't do it anymore. But we had a great time, and we investigated for both property owners as well as people that had different situations develop. One lady, for instance, her husband died suddenly on the way home, literally was in a car accident on the way home from work. And then her house started to be, started to have some poltergeist type of activity occur. And, it was really a fascinating case to follow because there was more than one entity there. And I kind of wonder if the husband's passing on ended up somehow connecting some other negative entity to her and to the property, because there was definitely more than one entity. One thing was the husband trying to give her information on a life insurance policy that he had, and she was desperately trying to get assistance with bills and all. But something else was being pretty malevolent and even attacking her in bed. And even when we were in the bedroom, I was with one of the other investigators, and we had sat down and we're just trying to see if we could get any activity to happen. And he was really aggressive in his manners, trying to provoke a response. And something kicked the bed and sent it like a foot in the other direction. It always is amazing when you see how certain entities can manipulate the heavy, dense 3D reality from the other side, and others can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot going on out there. Christine Love says, I saw an entity attached to an ex. I didn't realize that I had that kind of sight. Ex-military, substance use, all the things that open one up to such things. Yeah, and my experiences, some of these, one in particular with me, the eyes would turn black and be like the shark eyes, the dead eyes, and they would just turn black, and then that person would simply be gone. So this is something that I do take very seriously. My boundaries are very strong with these energies, and I think that's where you have to be. I mean, if something doesn't feel right, put your foot down, because the intensity of your intentions really, really matter.
Absolutely. And, oneness does a great job at always staying very high vibe, high frequency. And, if we could manage to stay very high vibe and high frequency all the time, then we automatically have a shield against them. It can be tricky if you're in a mixed marriage. When I say that, I mean a relationship where the partner doesn't believe in anything, doesn't think there's other dimensions, maybe, again, doesn't believe in ghosts, or maybe they believe in extreme fundamentalist approach instead of, a more balanced approach at looking things. But it gets tricky when also somebody's staying high frequency and somebody else is abusing substances, because when you abuse substances, you open up doors, and that's just a fact.
And it doesn't always have to be abuse either. It can be, just something that you doctor says that you need to be on. I just don't trust all the pharmaceuticals that are out there. I'm not telling people to not see their doctor and don't take their medicine. I'm just saying that it can be a problem, even though, so we always kind of have to be on guard, especially if you're already sensitive. So there's this communication that goes on around you all the time. So there's got to be two beings there at least. So one is listening and one is speaking. So where is that speaking come from? And if you find yourself having, these disagreements or conversations and stuff, and you're just not grounded and you're not okay, that's a time to really shift your focus and shift everything to something that's more positive, because it could be something that's knocking at your door and trying to be let in. You don't want that. You want to stop. There's a difference between processing and then these beings just coming in and taking over your mind and sending you down dark rabbit holes that are not benefiting you. Now, if you are processing, that's different. You're going over your stuff and you're making progress. This is very, very different than another being just, getting you in a bad state so that they can continue to leech off your energy field.
Yeah, Sin Havoc says Rammstein is a sick band. Yeah, but the lead vocalist is reptilian. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he always was, but that's an overshadowing. And this is, again, what we're learning now with the E-files. Now, these people, they sign that deal with the devil and they get the fame and the fortune, but they sell their soul, so to speak, and they end up getting involved in all sorts of horrible things. But that's the system that we're in, and people are waking up to it. Christine saw an entity attached to an ex, didn't realize that she had that kind of sight. Ex-military, substance abuse, all the things that open one up to such things, it scared the bleep out of her. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And then growing up in the family with an alcoholic, in the house, that's definitely a door opener too, and a big time problem. And then, the realization, like when you have to give up something or it's going to literally eat away at your soul, it's like sometimes it pushes you to the very edge and you got to say, okay, I just can't go any farther. Renee O'Leary has seen a lot of entities. A lot of times it's with you from a very early age. Again, yeah, it could make dating hard. Yeah, absolutely. But it's good because you could just see right off the bat, okay, no second dates for this one. I see the tongue coming out and it's forked.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Territorial demons, when you think about it, and these parasites, they view their host as their territory. So yeah, if you are again in a new relationship and then, maybe you realize, well, they kind of drink a lot and they seem to change when they drink, or well, they're on this medication for depression and as soon as they take it and maybe combine it with something else, and all of a sudden I don't recognize the person, it's because it's another entity overshadowing it. It's very real.
It changes your frequency. So when your frequency makes these shifts, even if they're just subtle, that can allow for other things to come in. And I think awareness is your best friend. Knowing who you are and knowing what you are like, and then knowing when you're not that. Is it one that's trying to suck off your field?
Yes, which they do. And, again, if you are trying to pull somebody's frequency up, we have seen this uh, countless times where one person is on a spiritual journey and they're trying to go higher, but the other is just mired in the muck and has no real intention of going higher. They might say they do here and there, but they don't. They just keep going back to the same old negative habits. It will start to pull down the frequency of the one that's trying to go higher.
Yeah, that happens often, and there can be like disagreements, even disagreements in the relationship, and one is just basically saying, I want to do different, I want to go higher, and the other one actually kind of anchors in even harder, doubles down, and starting arguments and just not wanting to do that because then the other things that are attached to them would have to let go, and then there's also people who usually, if you're just about to make a breakthrough in life, all kind of things are going to come tumbling down on you because a lot of these demons don't want you to break up in frequency. They don't want you to break your frequency because they wouldn't have any more loosh. So keep that in mind. If you're going through a hard time, you're probably just on the verge of a breakthrough. Good one.
Yeah, and as Robbie has said, he quit the drinking and he's working on being totally clean. And as Jen mentions, be very careful when weaning off of meds because it could definitely unbalance you. I think the thing is, if they would just tell people right from the beginning the type of negative effects, and instead of just giving you a paper with a laundry list of possible negative reactions, how about taking the time to really read it themselves, the ones that are prescribing all the things that could go wrong if we really truly understood this instead of it being treated like, like it's not really that likely? Well, I don't know. Look at the stats. Look at the stats. And congratulations, Renee, for getting off of alcohol, because that is really a plus. And believe me, I was like such a wine enthusiast. But when I look back at like my family, so many people in my family died indirectly from alcohol. Alcohol definitely contributed to quite a few aunts and uncles prematurely leaving. So what is the truth about alcohol? Is it, the resveratrol worth it? Well, you could get resveratrol without the alcohol. And the thing is, some people might be able to handle like one drink and still keep their frequency high. It does depend where you are, location wise. It does depend who you are around, and also your own ability to resist negative thoughts and temptations. Because we all know just about everybody has probably done something under the influence of alcohol that they wouldn't have done otherwise. And we've touched on alcohol's demonic origins, al-Kul, and I think it's Arabic. Literally, alcohol, it means a body-eating spirit. Kid you not. Al-Kul is the Arabic word from which alcohol is derived. Al-Ghal or al-Kul means body-eating spirit. When we consume high amounts of alcohol, we are in effect extracting the soul essence out of the body. Well, in Taoist philosophy and medical Qigong, you have your guardian angel beings. They're called the three Hun. They literally reside in the liver. What organ gets damaged the most? Well, The liver certainly gets damaged a ton from alcohol. The brain does as well. But really, again, the liver. Well, in Taoist tradition and medical Qigong tradition, when you drink alcohol, you drive the three angelic presences that are watching over you out of your body, out of your energy field, and then you're left kind of open and vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely. We can be left very open and vulnerable. Israel had a relationship like that, but it didn't hold me back, but did rip the connection in a snap fashion. That can happen. Like an instant frequency shift can just totally cut off any connection you may have had, because it's like you snap out of it and you're like, whoa, this isn't the thing that I want to be involved in.
Yep. And we are never alone in this. Again, keep that in mind with, I was talking about oneness was talking about having his pup with him. Yeah, again, there are a lot of animals that can clearly see these attachments that can come, but we are never alone. And the counterpart to the three Hun in Taoist tradition are the seven Po. The Po spirits literally come from Mother Earth. They're given to us to kind of run the body, to, regulate all those processes that we don't think about in the body are actually being regulated by consciousnesses, different conscious entities. But they are from the earth, and they do have that earthy tendency. We can equate them to the seven deadly sins. And when we drink again, we are at the power of these more lower entities as opposed to the higher entities. And then there's other things too. There's the other side of it, the incubus and the succubus, not to go into it too much. But I really do think that when you talk about pornography, that's one of, besides alcohol, besides, certain other substances, this is one of the things that opens you up the most to demonic entities. Because when you're in love with somebody and you're resonating truly in love, not lust love, but love, when you like the person, when you completely are heart to heart and every chakra lines up in that relationship, and you're literally vulnerable with the person in your openness, and it's a mutual exchange of positive energies, it's like the flash of creation is what's happening when we do truly make love. It's very positive, very powerful, very transformative. It can bring about miracles. But at the same time, when we focus on the darker, more animalistic sides of it, it could end up being negative. It could call in, again, these other entities that, they just use it as a means to draw your life force away from you. And that's what they're doing. They're feeding just like a tick, just like a leech, or just, again, like the same thing when we're getting drunk with too much alcohol.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty bad. It's all about draining the creative force in human beings, and making that really easy to do. And I think that's the sad part about this culture, this world right now, is that we all have this creative force, and it can be used for a lot of good, but too often it's diverted down a darker path for dark entities.
Yes. And, the thing is, we are fully protected and guided wherever we're going. That is very, very true. But it's, again, the case where we have to cultivate the light instead of feed the darkness, because there are so many entities out there in the darkness, but there's also so many entities out there in the light. So, again, where your focus is, where your attention goes, that's what you're going to draw in. So, understanding that, then we start to wean ourselves off of anything that could open up a door to these dark entities. And, that could be relationships, and that could be a tough one when the relationship is with a significant other, family members. when I was thinking about that, and that comment was made about the lead singer from Rammstein, it reminds me of another family member from childhood, an in-law that was definitely overshadowed by Draco. But Cindy has had experiences where she's seen the reptilians overshadowing people as well. Not all the time, but when they lowered their guard, when they went down some dark paths.
I've seen it mostly when people are actually tied to the internet, like the too much computer time, too much tablet time. It's like that shifts the frequency, allows them to come in and attach.
Yeah, as Ray says, that's why there's a liquor store in every corner in America. Yeah, they even have drive-throughs in the South and some other places where you could drive through and get a daiquiri. But wait a minute, isn't it against the law to drive drunk? Yeah, yeah, some things that don't make sense, but the hitchhiker effect, yeah, neighbors are here and they won't leave ever. Locations with traumatic events. Okay, Gettysburg, for instance, I'll bring this up because I've been to Gettysburg and you could feel it. There's still people haunting Gettysburg that were killed back in, the 1860s. Literally, they're still stuck in a loop. Of course, there is no real time when we're outside the physical body. But at the same time, yes, beings can get really stuck. I think that's one of the things. There's not much to fear, but I would say I see where we can be concerned with getting stuck in a loop. So what we want to do is, again, lift ourselves up as high as we can, surround ourselves in as much positivity as possible, all the while being aware that you're living in the turn of an age that is going to throw at you all sorts of obstacles on your path to ascension.
Yeah, I think if you don't go out of your way to find the positive, then the negative is just sort of this constant low-lying energy that's always, always there. So you have to make an effort sometimes to bring in the positivity.
Yeah, Dan would have to drive 50 miles to get to a liquor store. Well, that's a good deterrent there. But how about just even going to a place and then picking up an entity? I was telling you guys how I was part of a paranormal group. Well, this one house that we cleared, everything went well. I did the clearing, but then the entity ended up coming back in literally into my apartment. And I had to banish it again a couple of times because it was pissed because I banished it from its host. It was like, a dog that you took the bone away from and it gets angry and then it starts to pick on you.
It can. It can. They can get angry. They can be territorial. A lot of times, if a person has an attachment, you can remove the attachment. But if the behavior doesn't change, then that attachment can come right back. So it can take a minute. Attachments can, they're all very different. If there's something in that house that it's attached to, again, you can get rid of it temporarily, but until you do the thorough cleansing and you make that complete frequency change, it can come back.
Yeah, and it might have been my own fault at that point in time because I was still having a glass of wine here and there. And I think that was lowering my frequency enough to where it could pop in. It's only like the last 5 years or so, maybe 5 or 6 now, with Cindy that now I don't touch alcohol at all. Never. I have a bottle of wine from like 7 years ago, whatever it is. I mean, it's there. It's going to stay in the fridge with me, and it's never going to be open because it's a symbol to me of how serious I take it.
Yeah, it's important to have those things sitting around, those memories of, your why, like why don't you do this anymore? That it's just helpful.
It is. And so, they tell us a lot with cartoons, Monsters Inc., right? I mean, my gosh, all the symbolism, all the info in Monsters Inc. I'm sure all you guys are familiar with that. How, again, Think about that. The monster in the closet. Do any of you guys have monsters in your closets? Please do share if you've ever had anything like that.
Of course we do. We all did.
Is it everybody? Has everybody had a monster in the closet? I do wonder. I do wonder.
I don't know. I just kind of thought all kids were scared of something in the closet.
Then that begs the question, if it's so universal, oh, that makes you think about the Matrix. This is about picking up somebody, like hitchhiking. This little blurb, it's a little piece in a cartoon. You never know who you're going to pick up hitchhiking. Again, you really don't. Yeah, there's been so many horror movies on that. But how about when that entity is not even really physical? There's been cases where people have picked up people thinking that they're alive, and then turns out they're not alive. They might have died like an hour earlier. There's been all sorts of wild events. I've had so many different encounters that I forget a lot of them.
I think this one for me was really interesting because people reported them not necessarily during their travel, but they reported these hitchhikers after they got home. They realized that something changed when they got home. So, which really asks, you have to ask the question, like, what is it about someone walking into their own home and then all of a sudden they start to notice these really weird things happening when the entity was with them all along? Is it just the fact that they're in their home and their filter has changed, their frequency is different, or do they notice the subtleties at home? Why just have these things come up when they get home?
Yeah. So Nina is sharing. Clear away any energy after any ritual, divination, energy work. Be careful about creating your own monsters, creating your own egregores. People do this all the time without realizing that they're doing it. And I know Cindy's head's nodding.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've encountered this, and we've had people that have been living right next to places where there's dark entities attached and have been attached, going back to some sort of historical event, or again, often domestic abuse can lead to all sorts of dark entities. It's a real sad situation. I was running the retirement communities, and I've seen all sorts of things. We had this one really nice old gentleman, but he had a habit of pinching some of the help on the butt, and I'd have to talk to him about it, saying that's very inappropriate. He was a senile gentleman, very advanced age, but always went around in a wheelchair, and he had a corner apartment. He ended up passing on, but then people were seeing his ghost. I had housekeepers see his ghost. I had housekeepers refuse to go into that room and to clean it because they would feel like somebody was pinching him on the butt. Literally, he wasn't demonic, but at the same time, that energy imprinted there. We had another one. She was a doll. She was a sweetheart. Reminded me a lot of my own mom. She was very energetic, and she died all of a sudden by heart attack. But again, people would see her ghost there. So this type of thing happens way more than people realize. And I think what people don't realize is this is going to only be exponentially increasing because of the yuga that we're in. We're in the Bronze Age now, and there's a dimensional merge happening. We're actually getting squished in to the same time-space continuum as other beings that have already been here. So we're ascending, but wait a minute. Where we're ascending through, there's already beings here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely changing. A lot of things are changing, I mean, and I was looking at this, and then a lot of times the animals, when people get home, the animals, they're the ones to notice first, because they can see the shift in frequency and they're humans, and then other family members start to notice it. And then why is it that leaving the place where you got the hitchhiker, does that somehow be, it's got to be part of the story? I mean, it's all just such a curious thing.
It is. It is. Realizing too, again, if we take a look at the bigger point of view, when we're talking about like Bigfoot, right? And the hitchhiker effect, again, could it be that if you were out there Bigfoot hunting and then you come home, that all of a sudden you might find that you're having these paranormal experiences? Because it has happened. It has happened in the past. And the other thing is, a lot of times people have seen Bigfoot and then they see what we would call a spirit orb. Well, some people believe that Bigfoot has the ability to change dimensions, to literally shift from appearing solid to not solid, just kind of disappearing. And there have been cases where people have witnessed a Bigfoot and watched it just disappear. I've shared with you guys, I saw a tall gray December 2017 in the house in the bedroom in Sarasota, Florida, and I watched it dematerialize right in front of me. What we're talking about again, when people pass on the ghost effect, right, the Bigfoot thing, it's just consciousness shifting densities. It's like changing the radio station, so to speak.
Well, yeah, it's that change in frequency. So, I mean, you can really see it a lot of times if people are going through difficult experiences in life. And all usually always after the death of a loved one, depending on what the person here that stayed in the 3D, depending on what they need, they might need a sighting of that loved one to help them get through. People get attachments going through divorces, moving homes, when you go through a severe illness, childbirth, military service. Um, all of these things can shift your frequency to a degree that you might make subtle contact with these beings, or could some of it be your guides and angels somehow coming in just to let you know if you're having a hard time, hey, we're here, we got you.
Yes, and Havoc, we do, and others do, have the ability to travel to different realms. That's something that is not taught to humans, but in other societies other than our own, I think all these things are taught to kids, as they're growing up. Unfortunately, humans have been really kept in the dark. It's one thing to have a full immersive experience when you incarnate. It's something else to purposely keep you in the dark and manipulated. Um, so yeah, lots of good things that you guys are adding out there. Um, I tell you, I think it's very, very real. The hitchhiker effect. We in North Carolina, 3 different occasions, I had what I swear was a Bigfoot, and I saw a footprint twice. Once imprinted on the cold ground it was like zero. So it was very hard. And it did imprint. It was about 14 inches in length. And then another time was in the snow, where the prints were in the snow, and they led to a tree, and then they just stopped. So it either went up in the tree or went to a different frequency. And 3 different occasions, it would rap on the house in the middle of the night, and I would go out, look around, and it would leave the stick it hit the house with, leaned up against the house. It was just really bizarre.
And you really got to ask the question, like, why do children seem to be so much closer to the paranormal activities than anyone? That's what I've noticed. And also with my own personal experience, I noticed children, they start out having these abilities, but then life happens and it all sort of fades away and they might not remember for a while. And then I've also had parents reach out and talk to me saying, my child is having these experiences. How do I handle this? And, each case is unique. And I would say just across the board in general, if your child is reporting things, listen to them, help them process it, help them understand it, and just, do your best so that they understand, and give them some sort of protection if that's needed. I mean, if it's a disturbing experience, then we have to address that aspect of it too. But why children? I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Well, because again, children are very bright. Their energy is very bright, and unfortunately, they can be manipulated, and these things do that. Spirit attachment, an entity or energy that's connected to a person or individual's etheric field or aura. Yeah, it is a hitchhiker, literally. This is from Antitatum, Paranormal Society. In most cases, spirits are trying to get your attention, or they're unaware that you're even experiencing. Yeah. I think it's often that, like in a classic haunting, you're literally seeing an energetic imprint of an event that just is so burnt into the ether that we keep watching it repeat. And yet, there might not be what we would call a living conscious entity literally reliving it as a loop. It's just like watching a film, so to speak. It's something that happened in the past, and it's imprinted in the ether there.
Indeed.
Setting a boundary or intention with conviction can reduce or eliminate any unwanted experiences. Yeah, some things too can be created by individuals, again, if they are very disturbed. But then again, in some ways that could lead back to different type of entities. There's so much creepiness out there. It really could be very, very disconcerting. Yet at the same time, there's some of us that just handle it better than others. I guess we're just used to it.
Israel brought up a very good point about Monsters Inc., where laughter is, like 100 times stronger than fear. So if anyone is just kind of stuck in a funk and you can't get out of it, I always recommend funny animals, just funny anything. Turn on the comedy channel, because that will change your frequency really quick, and it makes it so difficult for them to stick around.
Yeah, I've used that before in certain cases, and maybe there's an innate tendency too when we get a little nervous to use humor sometimes. Skinwalker Ranch, if you're not familiar with it, they have so much different stuff going on. They have obviously interactions with beings in UFOs, UAPs. Some of these things are ships, other things appear to be orbs. I'm sure they're interacting with grays, but then they've also had a time where like a dire wolf came through a portal, or at least that's what it seems like it is. A portal that literally might bring something that was living 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, pre-Younger Dryas extinction event, was able to cross over and come into this reality at this point in time. Think about that. Portals that open, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're open to any one particular time. That's part of. I just find that fascinating.
Well, the fourth dimension, it's there. It's just we can't see it. So it is really fun with all of these new technologies that we have coming in, all of these different ways to read the land and read the energy through technology is giving the masses a taste of what so many of us already know, and that there is another dimension that does not include time as we know it, but time in another way, where these beings can interact with us because they can look around us and they can see what we're going to be doing in the future and kind of inject themselves. I've had that happen many, many, many times where being at a funeral and somebody would be saying a speech about their loved one, and they would have, like, on the screen behind the person at the podium are all kinds of like different facial expressions of the person who's deceased. And right when the person who's making the speech says something in relation to the one that's deceased, something in correlation with the speech. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but a picture would come up having to do with what the person was talking about. So like, how did they coordinate that? Like if someone's talking about the one who is deceased. Oh, I remember we went on a boat ride and out in the lake, and then all of a sudden it shows the picture of them on the boat ride out in the lake behind them. Like, how did they do that? And it was just too coincidental. So I think it's fun how some of our loved ones or other entities can, uh, coordinate time that way to make these synchronicities so cool.
This article right here is talking about different times on Skinwalker Ranch where people that had visited the ranch end up having experiences when they go home or they go somewhere else, including issues with their health. This is really pretty wild when you think about it. Now, some of it might be the fact that, like, on a place like the ranch, they've had experiences where there's been extremely high radiation present, and that could cause all sorts of problems. Again, you're talking about interactions with beings from different densities. And, again, it seems that they have the advantage of being able to see us maybe a lot of times when we can't see them. But this is talking about some of those cases. You have one family that they had experiences, then they had experiences when they went home. And these are really, really wild experiences. I'll just read you a little. Axelrod, accompanied by Jim Costigan and David Wilson, encountered an anomaly on the ranch that caused a lot of fear in all three men. But little did he know this incident was only the beginning of his troubles. Within a month of arriving back home in Virginia, going to Utah, then going back to Virginia, a plethora of paranormal phenomena suddenly erupted in Axelrod's home. For several years following his July 2009 and subsequent trips to the ranch, his wife and teenage children were subjected to nightmarish dogmen appearing in their backyard, to blue, red, yellow, and white orbs routinely floating through their home and their yard, to black shadow people standing over their beds while they awoke, and to a relentless barrage of loud, unexplained footsteps walking up and down the stairs to their house. The Axelrod teenagers endured some very scary episodes in their bedrooms. Paul, the younger teenager, claims to have been attacked by blue and red orbs in his bedroom at night, February 7th, 2011, but they kept quiet about the strange experiences. So imagine Paul's shock when he was approached by one of his high school friends in 2011, who told him on the previous night he had looked out his bedroom window, witnessed a large wolf-like creature standing outside his bedroom looking in at him. A few weeks later, another friend told Paul of seeing strange blue lights flying around his backyard. These revelations by the two friends came without prompting from Paul. In other words, they can't be dismissed as Me Too phenomena. The experiences by Paul's school friends suggest a perception of bizarre creatures and blue orbs was transferable beyond the Axelrod family home and out into the neighborhood. It's unlikely these events would be explained as a series of improbable coincidences. Likewise, since the Axelrod children were very reticent in discussing these experiences outside the immediate family, the incidents with their school friends cannot be dismissed as pure mimicry. The Axelrod family also suffered health effects, with the wife suffering flare-ups of systemic lupus and also Raynaud's disease. Both Axelrod teenagers also endured intense flu-like symptoms at different times, following anomalies in their home, with the most serious medical symptoms occurring in the younger teenager. This is all happening after they went for a visit to Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes. I mean, again, this is really strange. How and why, how could you change your frequency so much when going into a particular world and then go home and then all of these things follow you? Is it because your frequency changes there and then it stays the same? So now you have all of these other attachments. So it is very interesting. And then what about the family members? The family members also experiencing these things. So the hitchhiker effect, also, if you guys have noticed, here's like a way to really scale it back and understand it. Have you ever gone to the store? I mean, just simply gone to the store and come home and be completely wiped out. I mean, exhausted to the point where you just have to put everything away and lay down and shut down your senses and things like that. Could very well be you picked up a little bit of a hitchhiker there.
Yeah, so this goes over more cases with people that have actually had all sorts of encounters well after being off the ranch, and even again, what feels like attacks on their health. Recognize too that when we talk about entities like dogmen, what we've gotten is that, again, they were created by, in some cases at least, Anunnaki or entities that we might call the Anunnaki. There is also the thought that dogmen are a created species for this intergalactic war, and actually do end up fighting against Big Draco at times. We think of things as separate phenomena that might not actually be separate. There's tons of orb and UFO sightings around Bigfoot. Could it be possible that Bigfoot might actually at some times go up in a ship? Just putting that out there.
Yeah, why not?
Why not, right? I mean, again, we think of certain things as being one way, but having nothing to do with another. But ultimately, everything is consciousness. And ultimately, there's intelligence of some sort out there. This is just saying the most common type of haunting is with intelligent beings. This is a story about a couple in World War II that picked up somebody on the road, a hitchhiker. And, it's a cute little story because they're talking to him and he's talking to them. And ultimately, they pass a accident, and it's literally the guy that died in the accident. He's out of his body and he's on the road. This is not uncommon. Poltergeist literally means noisy ghost. Some of these entities have the ability to manipulate matter to the point where they can literally move things. Poogan's Porch, if you ever get to go to Charleston, South Carolina, is a pretty famous restaurant. Yeah, it's interesting because it is one of the more haunted places. It's a Victorian house built in 1888. It's famous for its resident ghost, Zoe St. Armand, who lived there for years, died of a broken heart, and also the spirit of Poogan, the dog that used to greet guests for years. It's one of the places that we investigated when I was part of that group. It wasn't too far from where I was living in South Carolina, and it was a restaurant that I had gone to several times. So it was an awfully fun thing to do. A lot of the staff, I mean, everybody has their encounters with the ghosts. It seems that many people that dine there have encounters with the ghost. This was also very, very fun. This is America's most haunted fortress. This is over in St. Augustine, Castillo de San Marcos. We investigated that when I was with the group too. And, there was orbs everywhere when we took photos on the inside of the fortress, man. It was nothing but orbs, so many spirits there. But that's what happens when you have, again, death and destruction ongoing. This is, after all, a fortress. But this was my favorite, I think, the Inn at Meriden. This is in Union, South Carolina. It was a plantation. It's haunted by friendly ghosts and former residents T.C. and Fanny Duncan. We actually got a picture of T.C. Duncan looking in as we were taking a photo of ourselves. You could see literally the plantation owner looking in from the outside window. His face was caught looking in on us when we took the photo. I don't have the photo. One of the guys I was with had the photo, but it was really cool. I did have an experience there where I was in Lucy's bedroom. That's what they call it. And after the investigation, which we had things moving in the kitchen, we had drawers opening and closing, doors opening and closing. We would go into the kitchen, it would all stop. We'd go back out of the kitchen, it would all start up again. We had anomalous areas where the temperature dropped almost 20 degrees at times. And then when I went and sat on my bed and I just laid down on the bed, I still had my feet on the ground. I felt something depressed by my left knee, and then something depressed the bed by my right knee, and then up by my left hip and by my right hip, and it laid down on top of me. The thing was, it was warm. Most ghosts come across as being cold. Yeah, this place, 91% rating on is it haunted? Well, yeah, I know for sure. There's all sorts of stuff going on. They leave pennies as housewarming gifts. Rose-scented perfume and cigar smoke can be detected when the ghosts are around. Another haunt in the residence is Mary Ann Wallace, sister of former owner, whose apparition has been seen by many. A white ghost dog lives here too. Some guests have felt a touch while sleeping or awoken to a lengthy piano or harpsichord serenade. There's no piano or harpsichord on the premise, and yes, I definitely had my experience there too. It was a lot of fun. Dudleytown was my first place I've ever investigated. This is up in Connecticut. It's a literal real ghost town that nobody lives in anymore. It was a village, they went through plague, they went through attacks from indigenous people. It was thought to be cursed. There was a curse on Sir John Dudley. That's the founder of Dudleytown, who actually was, again, a royal coming over to escape persecution because of something that I guess he had done to the queen, if I remember the story right, some sort of argument. But anyway, it just didn't make it. It existed for like 150 years or so, but there was a string of bizarre deaths, and eventually everybody left it. And there are foundations there that you could still see the foundations, but you're not allowed to camp there. But I did camp there overnight, and it did freak out my partners that I were with. This is the location up in the Litchfield Hills, beautiful area up in Northwest Hills of Connecticut. It was very, very fun and interesting, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. How to create a protection energy bubble. I would say the absolute fastest way to do it would be find something funny. Find something just to snap you out of it wherever you're at. Otherwise, you want to imagine, like what I do when I'm doing a clearing. I will see the white light, and I will see the white light as a pin dot, and I will focus on that pin dot, and I will expand until I feel satisfied with that expansion. But there's so many different ways to do this. It's just what I like to see confirmation. So I've done this several times and gotten a lot of feedback with that method that I just explained being the best method to create a protective energy bubble and kind of push entities out.
Yeah, what another common practice is quarter calls, calling the quarters. If you've ever studied ceremonial magic, Wicca, pagan magic, even just, again, it's all really shamanism when you get down to it. Interaction between different realms, different frequencies. You can go and call in the directions. You could be as fancy as you like, or you could do it as simply as you want. You could use all sorts of tools. You could use, again, things to mimic the elements. A candle, incense, candle for fire, incense for air. You could use water, and you could use salt for earth. And again, go in each direction. And if it helps you to focus, because really the big thing is your focus, and how strong your will and your intent is. If you use tools and it makes you feel more positive and stronger and more empowered, then use the tools. Some will draw up very elaborate rituals and even color code things according to the element. And also, you can call forth the elemental beings themselves. They will listen to you because, again, that it's part of their job to listen to you. Recognize that everything has karma attached to it. So I think a simple rule of thumb is, if whatever it is you're doing, certainly protection is something that's just a basic right for each of us. But again, if there's no harm being done to anybody else, karma is going to be good. And you won't endure any negative karmic debt. Some people create egregores and then let them run wild, and you are responsible for their karma. So, again, these are type of things to recognize. I wouldn't play with magic per se. Recognize we are creators by nature. And I think reining ourselves in and recognizing when we're creating negative thought forms and patterns, then we are really going to have to go uphill to remove them later. But, again, you could call on the elementals of the air, the fire, of earth and water. You could call on the archangels as well. You could utilize crystals. You could utilize herbs and plants. You could utilize different positions. If you'd studied ceremonial magic, Golden Dawn, etc. Again, it's got to be something that resonates with you. And things might resonate at one point in your life, then they don't resonate anymore, and you let things go. But where you are now, that's what you should embrace. Again, you could call on the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, if that is something that resonates with you. There is the LBRP, where you do the Kabbalistic cross, and we've done a video or two on this. There's other videos out there for this. But you draw down white light from above your crown through the crown chakra, down through the root chakra, and your feet send it into the earth. And then you go from one shoulder to the other, sending it out into eternity. Infinity maybe is more accurate. And just visualize yourself as the interaction and the intersection point of that cross of light. Then you formulate the pentagrams, and these are banishing pentagrams. So the direction that you start and end in means everything. When you're doing a banishing earth pentagram, you start in the lower left-hand corner, go up to top center, down to lower right, go over to left shoulder, go over to right shoulder, and come back where you started from. And you repeat that in all four directions, and each time calling on the archangel to guard and protect you. This really works. This really does work. It drives out everything. And believe me, the entities, they don't like it when you do this.
So this is something that practice really, really definitely helps. I had a situation, and Mike was very, very helpful in helping me clear some of these energies. But then that wasn't enough for me. I had to learn it myself. And I realized after I learned it myself, I was no longer like a target for these things. And I have utilized this and helped people realize, really help people get rid of these demons that keep coming into their lives and messing with them. As soon as you give someone the gift of empowerment, that really, really helps a lot. It helps them stand on their own too, and just be very self-reliant. And when you're self-reliant, oh my gosh, that really changes the whole game, because it's almost like they can see your frequency, and they can see that, oh, that one knows some things. I'm just going to go on to the next one. So it's like any parasite. that's feeding. If a parasite can no longer feed on something because it doesn't taste good or it's not possible, it'll just go feed on something else. And these, some of these demons are no different.
No, I have to share. I mean, I studied like the Golden Dawn material, and before the Golden Dawn, I studied the Rosicrucian material in my teen years. And then I practiced the LBRP every day for years. I also practiced the ritual of the hexagram for years, and I could feel the effects with my aura, because they definitely bring a lot of energy into your aura. Um, I don't really do them now. I haven't done the hexagram ritual in 10 years probably. Because I've shifted energetically. I just feel way more comfortable with the devas and the Devic way, especially after Cindy has channeled some of the Devic deities. But, we do work with certain entities, very high vibrational entities, but they're from different traditions. And that's okay, because ultimately, we've all been in different traditions at different times. If you look at the oversoul, the higher self, we're having these incarnations, but the higher self is having many different incarnations, literally at the same time. So yeah, we do work with Isis Aset, but we also work with Ananda Maima, and we also work with both Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, as well as Yeshua. These beings on the other side, on the higher densities, they don't view themselves with any labels that we might give them here. They just simply are working for the light and working for the betterment of all.
Mm-hmm. No, but I have noticed there are certain languages that carry more of a command to get out than other ones. But I think that depends on the frequency that you're dealing with. So that's just been my personal experience and what I have seen work for other people. But a connection with your guides is so critical. It's so very important. And having, and that's something we can all do. We can all do. If there's a certain deity that you have an infinity for, well, there's something there. If someone you've studied or relate to, there's definitely something in that frequency for you to gain some sort of positivity. But it should always be positive. It should always help you ground. If it destabilizes you, no, that's not okay. This work should never destabilize you. And if it does, it's an idea just to really step way back.
Yeah. And so I was talking about feeling the energy from doing these rituals. At the same time, I've felt amazing energy from doing the Ganesh mantra, from doing the Vishnu mantra and the Lakshmi mantra, as well as Hanuman and some others. I've felt incredible energies. And again, I think Robbie was bringing up colors, like envisioning yourself in pure white light is something you can do, because it contains all the different rays of the spectrum. Yeah, you could also use a golden light, and then it's only going to allow in the higher frequencies into your area. Or you could use a violet light to drive out any of the lower parasitic entities. So these all work. There's many different ways of doing things.
All different ways, and just you do you. Just stay grounded in whatever you do. And if you're not sure, just sit with something. If you're not sure how to deal with something, just sit back and talk to your guides and angels and see what they might suggest.
And if you were to see what you're visualizing, this is what you're doing in that LBRP. And then literally the archangels do come. They are very powerful beings, very powerful. So you could also do things like protection spell jar, and using a lot of different things. Here you got tourmaline, you have rosemary, you have black candle wax drippings, a little sea salt, and some amethyst. This could be a protection jar that you literally, if you're feeling attacked at work, you bring it to work, you plop it right down there on your desk, and somebody will probably ask what's going on. But you could just say, "Oh, it was given to me by my kids."
Sometimes people have the ability, they don't need anything, but a lot of times a tool like this, and then all of your intention and attention going into making one of these little protection jars that can fit in your pocket. Well, it's pointed intention, and that's what gives it its power. You give it the power with all of your attention.
Yeah, exactly. It's us. It's in us. So ultimately, when you get to a point that you don't feel like you need them anymore, you really don't. It's all about you. Tiger's eye, for instance, is courage, protection, balance. It could definitely help it to keep away some negative things, and also there's the evil eye thing too, which again, I wear a couple of things regularly, just habitually. And when you have stuff like that that's habitual and it's always around your energy, it gets supercharged.
Yeah, it's very good. Everything you get, you want to make sure it's coming from a reputable source. I think that is important.
Yeah, so I hope you guys got something out of this. This was a little bit different. Again, we could touch on whatever you want to touch on, and we plan on going down a lot of different tangents, a lot of different roads to travel. As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Israel. And
Dan, thank you, Israel. Dan, United Frequency, welcome aboard. This is so wonderful. Oh, and just to make sure we saw, sometimes it's really people give over on Ko-Fi, which is very, very helpful. And I just wanted to say thanks again to Sonia. And if I did miss anyone, please, my apologies. I'm making lists and doing my best, but we appreciate it all. So we're gonna end the night with some dings here. Hold on. Did you want to look up?
yeah, and I'll do Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words, acts, and deeds contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom of all. When Cindy was talking about powerful languages, right away, Sanskrit is super powerful, and Hebrew has a power behind it as well.
Okay, you guys, hold on. Here we go. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for keeping it high vibe in the chat. It all helps. We appreciate you. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.